Let's talk about medical device safety. What if I told you that for years, the way we've approached it has been, well, a bit backwards? Today, we're going to dive deep into MDCG 2025-10. Now, this isn't just another boring guidance document. It's a whole new way of thinking about how we monitor medical devices after they hit the market. We're talking about a major shift from just waiting for things to go wrong to proactively making sure they don't.
Think about it like this. For a long time, many safety systems were like driving a car while only looking in the rearview mirror. You only ever saw the problems after you'd already passed them, right? After the harm was already done. This new framework is all about getting us to look out the front windshield, to see what's coming up ahead and to steer around danger before we get there.
Okay, so let's really break this down, because this slide gets to the very heart of the change. On the left, you've got the old way, the reactive model. That's basically firefighting. You're just responding to complaints, dealing with incidents, putting out fires as they pop up. But on the right, that's the new proactive model. This is about becoming the fire marshal, systematically going out and looking for information, gathering data to spot the sparks and prevent the fire from ever starting.
So here's how we're going to walk through this new framework. We'll start with the core philosophy. Then look at the blueprint for your plan. We'll cover the data engine that makes it all run, how you turn that data into real action, and finally, how it all feeds back into a loop of constant improvement. By the end of this, you're going to see post-market surveillance, or PMS, not as a chore, but as a seriously powerful strategic tool.
All right, let's start with the big idea. The guidance is super clear that manufacturers have to take an active role through the device's entire life cycle. This isn't about launching a product and just crossing your fingers. It's about being a constant guardian, always checking, always verifying that your device is still safe and doing what it's supposed to do out there in the messy, unpredictable real world.
Now this slide, this is absolutely critical. We have to talk about the definition of device lifetime. And this isn't just about wording. This is the bedrock of all your responsibilities. The guidance makes it clear, lifetime is not the warranty you offer, and it's definitely not the shelf life. It is the full period of time that you, the manufacturer, state that the device will be safe and effective. And this is a huge deal. Let me show you why.
So check this out. Your PMS period starts the moment you sell your very first device, and it doesn't end until the lifetime of the very last device you sell runs out. Just imagine, you make an implantable device with a 15-year lifetime. Even if you stop selling it today, your PMS duties don't stop. They keep going for another 15 years. This is a marathon, not a sprint, and you've got a plan for that long haul.
And this proactive mindset applies to everything, both medical devices and in vitro diagnostics. But what you're looking for is a little different. For a medical device, like a pacemaker, you're looking for a major physical failure, right? Like that battery suddenly dying. But for an IVD, like a glucose test strip, a failure can be more subtle but just as deadly. A false negative result could lead a doctor to make a completely wrong call. Your surveillance system has to be tuned into these very different ways things can go wrong.
So, how in the world do you build a system that can do all this? Well, any good proactive system needs a solid foundation. And that foundation is your PMS plan. And this isn't some document you write once, stick in a drawer and forget about. It's the living, breathing blueprint for your entire surveillance operation.
Your PMS plan, which has to be part of your technical documentation, needs to spell out the whole shebang. It covers how you'll collect data, both proactively and reactively, how you'll analyze it, and, crucially, how it all plugs into your risk management and your bigger quality management system. Think of it as the central nervous system for your device's life after it leaves the factory.
And we're talking about way more than just counting up complaints here. The guidance is pushing for a much smarter, data-driven approach. You need to use real statistical methods that fit your device's risk level to figure out a baseline of what's normal. That way you can actually detect a statistically significant jump in problems and find the real signal in all that noise.
And this is where the rubber really meets the road. Your plan has to define threshold values. Think of these as your early warning tripwires. They're triggers that you set up in advance, and they're tied directly to your risk analysis. So let's say your risk file predicts a certain side effect happens once in every 10,000 patients. If your market data shows it's happening in 1 in 5,000, boom, that threshold is crossed. It's no longer business as usual. You are now required to formally reevaluate the device's entire benefit-risk profile.
Okay, so you've got the blueprint. Now it's time to start the engine. A proactive system runs on data. Good data. And the guidance makes it very clear that you need to be gathering that fuel from a whole lot of different places.
And just look at this list. It shows you just how wide you have to cast your net.
It's not enough to sit back and wait for serious incident reports to come in. You've got to be actively digging through literature, looking at registries, getting feedback from users and distributors. You have to be out there hunting for this information.
But here is a super important point. A flood of bad, unverified data is actually worse than having no data at all. It can point you in a dangerously wrong direction. The guidance really hammers this home. The quality of your data is everything. You need to have processes in place to verify where your information is coming from, so you know your analysis is built on solid ground.
Okay, so gathering all this data is one thing, but it's what you do with it that really counts. This is the analysis phase. This is where the real magic happens, where raw information gets turned into insight, and more importantly, into concrete actions to keep people safe.
This workflow gives you a really clear path from data to decision. First, you spot the trends. Then, you benchmark your device against the state of the art, which is basically just asking, how does our device stack up against the competition, and what's considered best in class today? And from there, you decide if you need to act. It's a logical process to turn what you're seeing into what you're going to do.
And the key thing to remember here is that this isn't just some academic report you file away. This analysis is the direct link between your post-market data and real-world actions to reduce risk. It's how you turn a jumbled mess of data points into a clear signal for action that can improve your device and, most importantly, protect patients.
All right, finally, let's talk about closing the loop. Because all these amazing insights are useless if they just sit in a report on a server somewhere. We need to see how they get fed back into your organization and how they're communicated to the regulators to make sure we're always improving.
So, the way you report is tiered based on risk, which makes a ton of sense. For lower-risk devices, you keep a PMS report that you just update whenever you need to. But for the higher-risk devices, you've got to create a much more detailed Periodic Safety Update Report, or PSUR, and you have to do it on a very strict schedule, every 1 to 2 years.
And this slide, this is the whole game right here, the feedback loop. PMS data can't live on an island. It has to be the engine that powers your entire quality management system. Real-world failure rates from the market should feed right back into your risk management files, forcing you to update your assumptions. User feedback should directly inform the design of your next product. It's a powerful, self-improving cycle.
Okay, we have covered a ton of ground. So let's boil this all down into some really practical, actionable best practices that you can start thinking about for your own systems right now. If you walk away with anything today, let it be these points. Be crystal clear and have a good reason for the device lifetime you define. Make sure your action thresholds are directly connected to your risk analysis, not just some random number. Always check your data sources. Learn from one device to make your other products better. And remember, this is a long-term commitment. Think of your PMS system less like a cost and more like an R&D engine that's fueled by real-world evidence.
At the end of the day, that's what this guidance is really all about. It's a fundamental shift in mindset. Post-market surveillance is no longer just a regulatory box you have to check. It's now a core part of your ongoing promise to deliver quality, performance, and above all else, patient safety.
And that's really the question I want to leave you with. Is your system just a task you have to do to stay compliant? Or are you truly using it as a strategic engine to make your devices safer, better, and more effective for years to come? Thanks for joining this explainer.